thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. And so part of it is about race, because if you think about the Brittany Griners of the world, you know, why did she have to go to play in Russia?
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay her.
Because they wouldn't pay, not because she was black, but because they didn't believe in the WNBA.
This is part of my point. So
Yeah.
now, you know, Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white.
Why? Why would Caitlin Clark willingly bite into this shit sandwich? Why would Caitlin Clark believe a damn thing that the Yentas are saying? Tall privilege? What the hell is tall privilege? Are they privileged because they're the first to know when it's raining? I've never seen tall privilege in the WNBA because I've never seen a WNBA player dunk a basketball. Every year, the rim leads the league in blocked dunks and blocked layups. And who in the hell is Brittany Griner? I heard Sun Hostin mention someone named Brittany Griner. Who is that? I've heard of Bob Griner, who used to play for the Phoenix Masculines, but I've never heard of this Brittany Griner of which Asuncion speaks. Right now, Caitlin Clark, I think, is playing a very dangerous game. Matter of fact, she's in a lose-lose situation. Oftentimes, when people are in a lose-lose, they try to appease everyone by playing both sides, which is exactly what I think Caitlin Clark is doing right now. She's playing both sides. She's trying to be aligned with everyone, and as Johnny Banana said years ago on the challenge on MTV, when you're in an alliance with everyone, you're in an alliance with no one. Years ago, I believe the season was Rivals 2, maybe it was Battle of the Exes 2. Either way, there was a dude on the challenge named Zach Nichols. This dude was an absolute bison. According to Sun Hostin, Zach would have tall privilege along with muscle privilege and aesthetic privilege. Now, Sun would call it pretty privilege, but Uncle KC ain't calling some other dude pretty. But anyway, throughout the season, Zach was playing both sides. One side of the house was aligned with Wes. The other side of the house, they were aligned with Johnny Bananas. For years, Johnny and Wes, they were enemies. Zach was friends with both of them, so he decided to align himself with both sides. Good strategy, right? There's no way Zach can lose. There's no way he'll be voted into elimination because both sides have his back. For the vast majority of the season, the strategy of playing both sides, it worked. Zach and John A., his teammate or his ex in this case, they flew under the radar because both sides were battling each other. But towards the end of the season, as the numbers started to dwindle down, Zach was forced to make a choice. He was forced to choose a side. Problem is, he couldn't choose. He didn't know what to do, so he decided to be subtle and continue playing both sides against each other. Obviously, this blew up in his face. Once everyone figured out what he was doing, they determined that Zach couldn't be trusted, which meant no one had his back. He ends up going into elimination right before the final challenge, and he loses. And that's what normally happens when you don't choose a side. When you align yourself with everyone, when you're trying to please everyone, the end result normally is always the same. You lose. For some reason, this is a lesson that Caitlin Clark has not learned. And if she's not careful, Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, they will be learning this lesson the hard way. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. This morning on the second channel, talked about former man Redmond Sullivan being kicked off the women's fencing team at something called Wagner College. Some people are crediting Uncle Wagner for taking a stand and protecting women's rights. But I explain why Wagner College wasn't protecting women and how Uncle Wagner was simply protecting his own ass. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. As you guys know, Caitlin Clark was treated like a pariah last year in the WNBA dump. Me personally, I think she was ostracized by the media more than WNBA players themselves. But the dump divers, they damn sure didn't help. Throughout the season, as the mainstream media was treating Caitlin Clark like shit, I don't remember a single player in the WNBA coming to her defense. I do remember Angel Reese saying, "Me and Katie are friends, we're besties." A week, maybe 2 weeks later, Angel Reese was cheering on the sidelines as Caitlin Clark was brutalized by Ken Carter. Well, Casey, who in the hell is Ken Carter, and why is a dude playing in the WNBA? Ken Carter's not a dude, she's a lady. Ken was drafted back in 2020 by the Atlanta Dreamers, the team that plays home games at the local YMCA in Bankhead. The gym seats around 300 people, and the Dreamers still can't sell out games. That's why they're called the Dreamers. I have a dream that one day people will actually buy tickets to our pretend basketball games. Still to this day, it's just a dream. Ken also spent a season with the LA Sparkles, and last year, she was a member of the Chicago Bravado. 4 years in the WNBA dump, and no one had ever heard of Kennedy Carter. Hell, distant cousins had been looking for her for years. They were finally able to find her when they witnessed the altercations that she had with Caitlin Clark. "Look, Cousin Ken is on the TV!" Guess where Kennedy Carter is playing this season? Just take a wild guess. Wuhan, China. I hope she saw Aunt Fauci before she left. But the point is, like most dump divers in the WNBA, Kennedy Carter failed to take advantage of the spotlight that Caitlin Clark provided. A spotlight that, according to Caitlin Clark, was not earned through talent and hard work. It wasn't earned through years and years of busting her ass. It seems that Caitlin Clark is buying into the media theory that she's become a cultural phenomenon through her white privilege. The same white privilege that Uncle KC's been looking for and unable to find. 40 years of my life, I have been trying to locate this mysterious white privilege, this privilege that automatically makes me successful because I'm lacking melanin. Although my search has been unsuccessful, Caitlin Clark, she seems to have located this magical privilege, and she has exploited her white privilege on the way to becoming a superstar. Back in December, Caitlin Clark was interviewed by Time magazine. She was honored with their, I guess, prestigious title of Athlete of the Year. During the interview, she was thanking those who helped her along the way, and Caitlin Clark mentioned her mythical white privilege. "People love me because I'm white. My privilege has given me notoriety that marginalized groups don't receive." Strike one, but that's okay. That's okay. This subtle admission of white privilege, it was pretty much forgotten. Normal people went through the holidays while parishioners at Woke United Methodist were lonely spanking the wanker. We had the NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl, the Luka Doncic trade in the NBA. Strike one really was no big deal. Question is, will strike two be a big deal? Or will Caitlin Clark be given the benefit of a third strike? This week, Caitlin Clark was interviewed by David Letterman, who for reasons unknown is starting to look more and more like Sasquatch. David Letterman has a beard that some in the WNBA dream of having. I wonder if white privilege had anything to do with David Letterman's ability to grow a healthy beard. Anyway, Grandpa Dave, he is interviewing Caitlin Clark. They somehow get on the topic of privilege, and once again, Caitlin Clark admits to benefiting from her mysterious privilege. At the same time, she gives all the credit for the recent popularity of the WNBA to players of past generations. Hey, Grandpa Dave, it's me, Katie! Isn't it great to have white privilege? I'm so fortunate, but I'm also thankful. I'm so thankful to the black women who built this amazing league. They're really the ones that should be given all the credit, and it's my responsibility to acknowledge that. Look, I understand what Caitlin Clark is doing. I understand where she's coming from. Matter of fact, Draymond Green, he should be taking notes. Since the NBA's most high-profile role player likes to shit on past generations, he should follow the lead of Caitlin Clark and show his appreciation. Because without guys like Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, John Stockton, Kobe Bryant, without those legendary players carrying the league, Draymond Green would not be in the position that he's in today. So part of me understands and even respects what Caitlin Clark is doing. But here's the problem. Number one, you can respect past generations without acknowledging your mythical white privilege. And number two, what Caitlin Clark is saying isn't necessarily true. Past generations didn't keep the WNBA alive, unless it was past generations of the NBA. When Caitlin Clark came into the league, there were no chartered flights. Most games weren't being played in NBA arenas. They were being played in high school gyms. For 3 decades, no one was paying attention to the dump. I remember a couple of years ago, ESPN went the entire month of July without broadcasting a single game in the WNBA. The supposed home of pretend basketball went an entire month of the regular season without broadcasting a game. This is no disrespect to past generations or even the current generation, but the only reason people are paying attention to the WNBA is because of Caitlin Clark. Will this subtle admission of white privilege, again, have any impact on Caitlin Clark's drawing power? No. But if you're Kathy Engelbert, it should still be concerning. If Caitlin Clark destroys her drawing power by being baptized and born again in the woke faith, the WNBA does not have a chance. You gotta wonder if Caitlin Clark is becoming her surroundings. Remember when you were a teenager and your parents used to tell you you are who your friends are? You gotta wonder if Caitlin Clark is becoming infected with the woke fungus. Gotta wonder if her desire to be accepted by her colleagues is pushing her towards inclusion. It is gonna be interesting to see how Paige Bueckers is received by WNBA players and their pretend friends in the mainstream media. Paige Bueckers has a long history of admitting her white privilege. She has proven herself to be a loyal comrade. Will that influence Caitlin Clark to take it a step further? How long can she play both sides without having to choose? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.